Lay it down.
What's your name, buddy?
A tornado has hit Dothan Vocational Center. This is Jim Hemby reporting it. We have 30 severe, it looks like severe injuries, and we need help right away.
This doesn't look like a drill. Students scattered on the ground with visible injuries, crying with pain. That's the idea of this exercise, to simulate what would happen if a disaster should strike Dothan.
The exercise was designed to train the emergency service agencies of Dothan and Houston County. Also, it was to meet a requirement for both the Medical Center and Flowers Hospital to help meet their accreditation. Also, the EMT students that we're utilizing here had to participate in an exercise for their graduation, part of their classwork that they had within their training.
The 30 injured students were taken by ambulance to one of Dothan's 2 hospitals. 3 months of planning went into today's exercise. Aldridge says he's pleased by what he saw today at all locations.
It's hard to evaluate something when you're reporting on a mock disaster over a real disaster, but I feel that the people have learned, the emergency services have learned how they would have to work together and coordinate, and they're learning every time we do something like this, they find something that they need to be doing, and they incorporate it within their planning activities.
The biggest improvement he sees is the way the different agencies are communicating with each other, something critical in case today's simulated tornado became a reality. Cal Calloway, WSFA TV News, Dothan.
Mayor has been very dedicated to this particular project. He sees the far-reaching. Jim Natalie, Jim, you'll stand up. Jim is our admissions officer
with General Motors and Bessemer Tech in-state in its 2-year program.
From the hood of an automobile today, I mean, you don't know where to begin.
Thank you. President Martin
would have been with us here this morning, but for the fact that he helps run General Motors in one of those famous committees that does that.
Second by second basis, Ms. ASAP cars and anybody I've ever talked to.
Has seen the opportunities associated with this transfer of technology.
Dude down the Bright Star last night.
There were 11 items on the agenda, but all of them were about the business of getting a city started.
People who brought chairs, Mr. Aaron Ellis and Mr. Tobit Ellis brought signs.
It's not an easy job. You have to consider where the council can meet and when, whether to levy taxes and how much. Well, in this case, an empty store will do just fine for a meeting place every third Thursday of the month. It's just $50 for a light deposit. And thank you, no, the council wants to take its time before it passes any taxes. Actually, Shorter can't afford to dodge any of the tough questions. Already, people with dog track fever are asking for permission to build package stores and lounges. The council is saying no.
What we do not want to happen, and which we will do everything to see does not happen, is that Shorter has a convenience store and a lounge and a package store in every corner.
The mayor says Shorter, a community of 576 people, is prepared to change and grow with the Macon County dog track, but it wants to change on its own terms, at its own speed. Susan Silvernail, WSFA TV News, Shorter.
Representative Greg Beers of Birmingham is sponsoring the bill, which he says only requires a doctor to notify the minor girl's parent. He says it doesn't have anything to do with getting the parent's permission.
All this bill does is put back to where we were prior to 1971 in the state of Alabama. There was a law passed that you could have operations on younger girls prior to the abortion being ruled constitutional. I don't think that law ever was intended to let 13 and 14-year-old girls try to go through the trauma, the emotional and spiritual and physical trauma of an operation like this without their parents knowing about it. I believe the parents are the most important person in that child's life.
But a handful of women House members have launched an all-day effort to amend the bill. They contend this bill is fine for girls, parents who have good communications, but doesn't take into account those girls who will be afraid of their parents' reaction.
Basically, we all agree that the parents of minor children ought to be involved in everything that's important to them, and especially in an abortion situation. But I think most of us are really concerned that we're going to have minor girls at 15 and 16 driving and going back streets to get an abortion, and that's the main concern that some of us have, and we're not philosophically opposed to the measure. We just hope it doesn't create a situation where we get into that back street and have them going to the butchers.
Even when the issue is resolved in the House, the battle won't be over. The Senate will also have to vote on the bill. Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News.
It might have been a feeble attempt.
Well, it's not my fault. I know it isn't. The chair is asking the Farm Bureau to please consider that and get scheduled from now on and try to schedule you where you can make this 5:30, 6 o'clock meeting. I wonder.
Yes, all the others were in the advertised position.
And that is actually for operations, custodial services, utilities, and so forth in the school system. And as you would expect, those utility bills for January and February have come.
That's good.
Craig Wood, this a half mile, quarter mile, and Titus Frazier from over at Carver, this a quarter mile, who are some of the best in the state, but also some coming from outside the area, from Opelika and Auburn and Northview down in Dothan, and just some super good kids.
Get out the way of them big shoes, though. Get out the way, Bozo. Back. Hey, come on, man. Oh, they messed with you. No, man, cut that in, man. You gotta cut that. Bozo! Don't film us. Oh, you film us. What's that?
Well, we're hoping we'll slip in there and get second there. Of course, we're going to have to beat Jeff Davis and Alwyn and Opelika. They all got real strong teams. It's going to be cut up. The points are going to be so cut up. Whoever can win a few things is going to have a good chance to get second.
Big shoes though. Get out the way, Bozo. Hey, come on, man. I need men's with you. No, man, don't cut that out, man. You gotta cut that. Put it on the video.
Once again, Auburn hopes to set a national attendance record for spring games. The Tigers have come close. 32,000 watched the 8A game in 1982. The record for spring games is held by Notre Dame, set in 1981 with 35,000 fans. The fact Auburn is coming off an SEC championship year and that there's a real battle shaping up at quarterback could mean a record crowd. Pat Dye assures Tiger fans the game will be exciting.
I think that this is going to be an exciting football team to watch. Defensively, we got a lot of kids that'll hit you, and offensively, I think that we're going to be better next week than we were this week. It takes longer for the offense to come around, and we had more offense out here today than we've had. So I think it'll be an exciting football game. In fact, I know it will be.
Kickoff is set for 6 o'clock. Fan photo day activities begin at Jordan-Hare at 4 o'clock. Alabama State's annual black and gold inter-squad game will be held at Hornet Stadium Saturday afternoon at 1:30. Hornet coach Jim Parker is not only dividing his players, but his staff and the fans, too.
We've provided a little incentive. The winners will eat steaks, and the losers will eat pork and beans or something like that. And everybody that will come through the gate, will have them to declare by selecting black or gold. And, of course, the rosters will be available so that one might want to evaluate and so forth. But we want to try to create some excitement, want the kids to come out and have a good time.
Number one, which is quite important, and you probably are well aware of the preventive program, every enzyme which is missing in that condition, called hexosaminidase A, black couple, in a black couple will have to. But that needs, of course, personnel. Our genetic operation here in Mobile, Alabama, has only one genetic counselor and 2 medical geneticists, and this is far not enough. It is imperative for the legislator to have more money available. We could not do all we do in this state if we would not have a corps of volunteers. Clinic here, and do you build them? I just was in China last summer in a medical mission there. Amount usually to 10% of the cost the disease will cost. And this is only just a child. There would be, of course, no screening method, the so-called fire black couple, in a black couple will have the disease. Now, in the northern
Y'all telling her hi. Oh, stop. Don't put that in my mouth. Oh. Stephanie. Oh, y'all. Y'all, this is... Let's try it. Let's try it fast.
Good morning, Chris. I'm gonna tell you.
As well. But the region is of vital political North Africa. The Arab-Israeli conflict has been, although the people of the Middle East are basically opposed to communism, the Soviet Union persists in its efforts to spread its ideas within these countries. We must do all we can to prevent the growth of Soviet military involvement and the spread of Soviet influence, which takes root and grows rapidly in these unstable environments. Will provide fertile ground for Soviet involvement and a potential stage for a...
As Dr. Martin accepted the Presidential Medallion from Governor George Wallace, he also accepted the governor's challenge to keep the light shining, a reference to the inscription on the medallion, which says, "Truth flourishes where the student's lamp has shone."
A developed plan for its future is essential.
Dr. Martin's inaugural speech gives the Auburn community a clear idea of what's important to its new leader. State has a plan for excellence, and Dr. Martin thinks Auburn should have one. He outlined 10 points that would make his alma mater a leader in research and high technology.
With proper incentives, an improved and equitable faculty evaluation and a reward system, Auburn University will move to become one of the top 50 research universities in the nation. This strengthened research program would generate increased grant and contract activity, which in turn could support a more ambitious graduate program and contribute positively to the state's economy.
Dr. Martin's plan calls for upgrading some schools of study, adding some departments, and making senior faculty members more available to students. About 3,000 people, many of them faculty members, were there for the inaugural ceremonies, and they responded to Dr. Martin's plan with a standing ovation. Susan Silvernail, WSFA TV News, Auburn.
People, who does the family education in our schools? The physical. Here, and do you build them? Are they built? Yes. According to what they can pay, you know.
10 senators filibustered against the increase in minimum limits for 33 hours straight. Most of the time, the talkathon was staged to an almost empty chamber, and sometimes with the aid of props. The fight is over, at least until Tuesday, and the bill, as passed by the Senate just before midnight last night, would almost double the minimum amount of liability insurance you can carry on a motor vehicle. The current law, unchanged for a number of years, says if you have liability insurance on your car or truck, you must have $10,000 of coverage for a single injury, $20,000 for multiple injuries, and $5,000 coverage in property damage. The original House bill, as proposed by the Trial Lawyers Association, would have upped those limits to $25,000 for a single injury, $50,000 for multiple injuries, and $10,000 for damage to property. But the House approved slightly lower amounts. At one point, the Senate changed the bill to make liability insurance mandatory, but that was removed. Eventually, the Senate compromised on $20,000 limits on single injury, $40,000 for multiple injuries, and $10,000 for property damage. The bill must go back to the House for agreement with those Senate changes. Some are predicting another fight when this happens. Dennis Latham, WSFA TV News at the Capitol.
The people of Alabama, Steve, they're saying the people of Alabama.
Charles Barkley led the Southeastern Conference in rebounding all 3 of his years at Auburn. Known affectionately as the round mound of rebound, the 275-pound center from Birmingham was a second-team All-SEC selection his freshman year, a first-team All-SEC pick his sophomore year, and was the conference's Player of the Year this past season, despite a back injury that prevented him from starting until mid-season. That's when this interview was conducted with Phil Snow.
Personally, what would you like to accomplish this year?
Personally, I'd like to lead the league in rebound again, which is not a very good chance since I missed so many games. But the main thing, I'd like to just keep on improving from game to game. I don't think I had a chance this season, but I just like to keep my stats up, have a decent season.
Barkley would end the season with a 15-point-per-game average. He averaged 9 rebounds a game. He was the most valuable player at the Southeastern Conference tournament, although Auburn finished second to Kentucky. Barkley was a hit at the recent United States Olympic trials. Although he applied for the NBA draft under hardship status 2 days ago, he still wants to make the Olympic team badly. Barkley is a gentle of a giant, a man who says his decision made him sad, but that he knew it was best for Charles Barkley.
The George Lindsay weekend is here, and you could sure tell it today. The golf tournament, which is Sunday at Arrowhead Country Club, saw one of the former head coaches of the Southeastern Conference, Charlie McClendon, who is now the executive director of the American Football Coaches Association, was getting in some practice time today. Coach McClendon said he is very happy to be serving in his 12th year with the Lindsay weekend.
The years have certainly passed very quickly, but I feel very strong that if George can give his time and the money and effort that he puts into it, a lot of us can play because it's all going for a good cause.
While some are getting in the practice grounds for Sunday, there were some preparing for the start. The head man himself, Mr. Lindsay, who says he is running off coffee for the time being, was adding an extra hand at the headquarters for the celebrity weekend.
I'm very optimistic. I think they look great. We would like to sell a few more tickets. You know, I forgot the greatest show in the world, you know, Victoria Hallman, who I work with on Hee Haw, and Ray Stevens and Ernie Ford and Roy Clark and the Gatlin brothers. That's the best I could do this year.
The Great Star Show gets underway tomorrow night at 8 p.m. at the Civic Center, with the Celebrity Golf Tournament slated for a 10:30 tee-off Sunday morning. Jim Jackson for WSFA TV Sports.
Charles has been flirting with the top 5 draftees all year, and it looks, after discussing with the other general managers and coaches in the NBA, I went to the trials specifically for that reason, that he will be drafted no lower than 5th. No lower than 5th means guaranteed money, and that's very difficult to turn down. And it's a great thing for Charles. Charles is going to be drafted extremely high, and the money was something that he and the family had to look at, and it ended up being a difficult decision because Charles loves Auburn, and Auburn people love Charles. But we want to wish him the best. I think that he's going to have a great pro career, and I also think our basketball program is going to continue to be better because we have some tremendous players returning.
You really can't compare this year's defensive front to last year's because you really can't replace the quality athletes we had across the line. But I think all in all, we'll have a defensive front that will put 100% effort into every game.
I think the players are accepting me as a quarterback. It's going to take a little time because I have to do some things to really prove myself, and I haven't really done it yet. But I feel that they're accepting me a little bit now.
this series will be tomorrow afternoon at 12 noon at Patterson Field in Montgomery.
Well, personally, the black and gold game is very important. It's going to give me an overview of what to look for in the fall when we go up against Jackson State.
I know you're not looking forward to eating beans.
No, I'm eating steak.
Everybody's going out for steaks, but somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose. So.
Securities Commission agents say if you get a call from someone saying they have a good deal on commodities futures like pork bellies and other products, but you must wire your money right away or lose out on a chance of a lifetime, the offer may not be a chance of a lifetime. Bob French of the Commission warns potential investors.
If the public would just stop and check it out, because most agencies or most investments are regulated by some agency. In the case of the commodities, be the Commodity Futures Trading Commission or the National Futures Association. What is found is that many of these companies that have these boiler rooms set up in Miami, New York, or Los Angeles, some impressive address, have nothing more than 10 or 15 people on a telephone, and they have what's known as a boiler room, just calling. And they're hoping that they can get one purchaser out of 10 calls. And it's surprising how the public will, as a result of a telephone call, wire their money or send their checks. We have cases that young couples will go out and borrow the money.
An investor's alert issued by the Securities Commission reports that in Texas, $100 million was lost by consumers who were conned by alleged commodity dealers. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News reporting.
The Republicans are riding on a tide of optimism about the upcoming national convention in August, looking for the same momentum that put Ronald Reagan into the White House to keep him there. Today, the last members of the Alabama delegation were chosen. 38 delegates and 38 alternates will represent the state in Dallas. But despite their happy outlook, the group is not taking it easy this election season. Congressman Jack Edwards of Mobile.
The president has done an excellent job. There's no question about that. The issues are with us, and we've got an organization shaping up here in Alabama and across the country to turn out every voter that we can find who's for the president, and that, by and large, is the strategy.
The Republicans say they are pushing for more voter registration, more person-to-person campaigning, and tight security to avoid any foul play at the ballot box. Bill Harris is the state chairman for the Republican Party. He says he wants to keep party organization tight.
And one of the things I've got to say about the Reagan-Bush campaign generally is at all levels they've gone very far out of their way, as opposed to a lot of campaigns in both parties in the past, to coordinate with the activities of the Republican Party. And
The convention will start August 20th in Texas. It will run 4 days. All the Republicans, including Senator Jeremiah Denton, expected to be nothing short of a joyous celebration of Ronald Reagan's candidacy.
I believe I can say without any exaggeration at all that this is the greatest sense of unity that has ever pervaded the Republicans as they go to Dallas for the 1984 Republican Convention.
Are you going to win?
We're going to win.
The Alabama Republicans are confident of a win in this year's presidential election. If anything, they say they're worried about overconfidence, that supporters of Ronald Reagan might become complacent and think they don't need to go to the polls. Tom Foreman, WSFA TV News.
This was the annual Celebrity Weekend Parade at East Elm Mall, an event that always draws hundreds of people who try to grab quick glimpses of the many celebrities in town to help raise money for Alabama's Special Olympics. This year's parade was led, as it always is, by Goober himself. He was joined by several of his friends from the popular TV show Hee Haw. Also in the lineup were such well-known faces as Donnie Mose from Happy Days, Fred McMurray from the old My Three Sons show, actor Bo Hopkins, and Hill Street Blues star Ed Marinero. Many of the stars come back every year to help with the Celebrity Weekend. Before the parade, a few told us why.
In Alabama, I'm home again. It's good to be back in good country with good folks again. I'll thoroughly enjoy the whole weekend, I'm sure.
Oh, going great, because we had breakfast with the governor this morning in the governor's mansion. Hot biscuits, sausage, eggs, and red-eye gravy. Met a lot of my friends there. So everything is going great.
Smile pretty. There you go. Love it.
Food, but they're not nearly as valuable as the one we brought today. I realize that, but it seems to me it's high time that we begun to realize that there are some specific and give you, and I'll hold that for a but the courts have begun to ask themselves, if a limiting
represent the rights of injured citizens without appearing to be furthering their own self-interest. I think that's a difficult dilemma for trial lawyers to speak out on, because some people don't give it too much credibility because they're themselves are increasing their money because of it. So I think that's one of the great issues that faces us.
Second question is, of course, we're going to ask themselves, are there less prejudicial ways of putting it the same thing?
We take 160 law students, which is small in our region. I would not be surprised if that number does not go down some by choice. I would hope that we go into a direction of great faculty development, having faculty on our staff who are known as experts in their area. I would like to see us go in the direction of serving the people of Alabama, the lawyers, the public, trying to be of service in return for those tax dollars that they generously give us.
People in Sumter County are worried. They're hearing conflicting reports about the safety of the hazardous waste landfill in Amel, just 17 miles from today's meeting at the Sumter County Courthouse.
Many of us in the county are concerned about the possible effects now and in the future.
I'm concerned about what I don't know.
Environmental Protection Agency official Hugh Kaufman said little today to calm their fears.
I think there's a moral issue. Should all those financial risks, health risks, environmental risks, and all the risks that are associated with that be leveled on one particular county?
However, the southeastern vice president of the company, which operates the landfill, said the people of Sumter County have no reason to worry.
Anytime you're dealing with chemicals, you need to be concerned, but those knowing what you're dealing with, those concerns can be met. and we feel like that we're doing it in a professional manner, and therefore we're protecting the public.
Montgomery County District Attorney Jimmy Evans believes the people have the right to know the truth, and because all state public safety and health records are filed in Montgomery, his office is investigating the landfill operation.
Conducting an investigation, and it will be laborious and detailed, full and complete, and if there have been any violations of the Alabama laws in this area, they will be strictly enforced and vigorously prosecuted, and there will be no sweetheart arrangement. And I give you that word, not my word, not only as a district attorney, but as a citizen of Alabama.
Lisa Walsh, WSFA TV News, Sumter County.
Today's part of the sectional meet from the high school track facilities at Lee saw some interesting times in the boys' 100-yard dash. In the first heat, Lee Cedric Diners finished number 1 with a time of 10.12, but it was in the second heat, Opelika Sean Smith finishing the top spot with a mark of 9.25. Marshall Johnson from Carver here in Montgomery was second. Johnson with a mark of 9.89, but it was Opelika again in the third heat, in the boys 100, with a time of 9.95. A host of activities today at Jordan-Hare Stadium. One person who was not practicing football this spring, but has stayed in shape with the track team, Bo Jackson, seen here challenging anyone in the 100-yard dash. Later on, Jackson and his teammates were presented awards, some faces that will be missed. Jackson received the Kodak All-American Award. When the football got started, the Blues got started. Allen Evans scored first from 16 yards out. Kyle Collins was the second Blue member to score on this 20-yarder. Blue was now in front 14-0. Coach Pat Dye said the team had too many turnovers and too many penalties tonight, but that overall he was pleased. The Blue recovered a fumble with Tommy Agee going over, and their next possession from 2 yards out. Later on in the first, what could have been the best run of the night, fullback Brent Fullwood taking this one from Pat Washington. He would race 78 yards, and with 19 seconds to go in the first quarter, the Blue was ahead 21-7.
Well, I made the hard decision in my life when I came into high school, and I came to Auburn. I know I made the right decision. So now I made another decision, and I put my life in my own hands. You know, I don't know if I'll make it in the NBA, but at least I have control of my own destiny. I'm gonna just go up there and try to do my best. You know, later on I may say I made the wrong decision, but at least I made the decision I wanted to make, and no matter if I'm right or wrong, I did make it myself.
The Stars teed off to rounds of applause from about 8,000 fans that showed up to study celebrity golf form, like that special follow-through of Scatman Crothers. But the Stars probably spent less time playing golf than they did signing autographs, being interviewed, and having their pictures taken, and having their pictures taken, and having their pictures taken. Still, it was good fun for the Stars, especially those who come back every year, like Tennessee Ernie Ford.
Good to be back in Montgomery again. There's a lot of memories here for me. I was aviation cadet here on Maxwell Field for early part of my Air Force career.
Are you much of a golfer?
Oh, I hit it more than most people.
Of course, for some fans, there was sometimes a question of just who the Stars were. For that, a handy stargazing guide. Oh, not everyone was in the book. Some golfers, even though they paid $750 to play in this tournament, simply had brief celebrity status, if only for the clothing they wore. But if all the golfers weren't celebrities, neither were all the celebrities golfers. Ray Stevens seemed to enjoy driving the golf cart as much as driving the ball. Fred McMurray wasn't counting on winning.
I think probably we're tied for last at this point. We haven't played too many holes, but we haven't gotten a birdie yet, so we're still trying. But we're having a good time.
Of course, some stars like Hill Street Blues' Bruce Weitz were clearly no strangers to the links.
This is the first time I've ever played. If you believe that, I got a bridge I want to talk to you about. Well.
But the really big star of the day was the man behind it all, George Lindsay, and the 450 special children who joined him today. Despite all the clowning, this whole weekend is serious business for Goober and his friends, serious enough to raise somewhere around $67,000 to help Alabama's handicapped citizens. And that, while no laughing matter, is certainly worth smiling about. Tom Foreman, WSFA TV News.
About a dozen survivors and children of survivors of Hitler's concentration camps prayed with concerned citizens at the governor's mansion. Governor George Wallace, a veteran of World War II, spoke out against the Nazis and the people he calls the current-day Nazis.
Communists in this world today are just as brutal as the Nazis are, and the Nazis have been conquered, but the communists have not. And we find today criticism of people because we support the legitimate government of El Salvador, which is being subverted by Russia and Cuba. The Holocaust has been happening all over the world and it continues to happen.
Representatives from a host of faiths prayed for the millions of people who were executed in the Holocaust in Germany.
All who are born must die. But how shall we compare the slow passage of our time with the callous slaughter of the innocent cut off before their time?
This was the first such statewide commemoration of the Holocaust in Alabama, and Harry Zarimba, who spent 2 years as a young boy in the Nazi camps before being liberated in 1945 and becoming a grocer in Mobile, believes with the other survivors that the Holocaust should never be forgotten.
We have to try not to be like this. No, never again. Never again.
Lisa Walsh, WSFA TV News.
Everything, my television, my bed, my dresser, everything, my refrigerator, everything. I lost everything.
The nice weather helped out with the golfing segment of the Lindsay weekend. Sports celebrities were all over the 18-hole Arrowhead golf course. Auburn coach Pat Dye and his son, plus the head coach of Alabama, Ray Perkins. The question put to the Petal, Mississippi native, what about the race in the SEC for this fall?
Auburn's got great talent. They had a great recruiting year this year. Florida's got great talent. LSU had the best talent of anybody we played last year, I felt like. Tennessee, of course, is coming on real good. I think more so than any other time in the 50-year history of the SEC. any team can beat any other. You know, that's an old coach's cliche type thing, but it's very true. And I think all 10 teams have got a chance to be strong.
You'll notice this guy right away with the Texas hats, the boots, and the haircut. He's Bum Phillips, now the NFL head coach at New Orleans, who recently signed Richard Todd from the New York Jets on another quarterback, Kenny Stabler.
Kenny's got his knees arthroscoped, and they've been needing it for 4 or 5 years. And he got him cleaned out, and the other day he said it's the first time in a long time that he could run and jog without it swelling up and hurting him a little. So he's happy he did it, and I'm happy he did it.
I'm hungry in here. Didn't get no practice this motherfucker, damn. Did you camp the food downstairs? Everything going all right? And brought him up here. She said she's gonna drop him off at your house yesterday. And she bought 2 packs of soup. Sheriff, you said everything that they. Is that what you said? We said, like you said, what they pointed out that was not up to standard has been brought up. Right. That's the showers and the commodes, of course, the painting and what have you.
Everything has been corrected except either the personnel that he was talking about downstairs. It's got to be a man on this floor and a man on the other floor continuously, or a monitoring system.
All that you need me to help with in the legislature, I do, so that I'll be up behind that.
Well, we're gonna need some more judges. We don't need to legislate back for that. I think we can.
How many we have here this morning? 37. 30.
Except for those under 30 days. We've already ended that.
Well, the stove has to be a continuous well now, so we welded all that and painted over it. In fact, that was all wrong. The kitchen added the filters in the stove.
Oh, that was one of the primary items that was in the controversy back in Lincoln County Jail was hoods.
Continuous well. So we welded all of it around. That's so grease can't get through it. The grease is what causes the fire. And this has a sprinkler system.
This is our menu requirements. And when that menu is followed, basically, they are getting a balanced diet and what's necessary to maintain a facility like this. Because in open testimony, this is where the area of greatest complaint came of the feeding habits of these inmates. And I'm glad to see the sheriff has posted. But I think it may would be good for us to coordinate with the state dietitian so we can be on the same.
That's right.
We'll do that. We'll
567 Captain Monkey.
We're going outside.
Right. With the warehouse.
Right here. And for those old trustees got it, they get their shower. Relatively new. Of course, in that time, they were good, really oil.
the offices and the jail.
What was the expense to the county on equipment, stuff like that? You had to buy like that and the Washington.
Visited friends,